Dr. Homebrew is brought to you by 5 Star Chemicals, providing safety and cleaning supplies for brewing, distilling, and winemaking at 5starchemicals.com.
Doctor, look!
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. It's another episode of Dr. Homebrew. I know you were probably looking for, Chocolate Trap House or some other podcast, but you found us.
Yeah,
and that's okay. It's just as good, if not better. I mean, honestly, we're not talking about politics, but we're talking about beer, and that's just as divisive, especially this day and age.
And everybody seems probably more important too, actually.
Probably, yeah. I mean, I would. There's a fair amount of that. Speaking of what's important, 5 Star Chemicals. Not only do they bring you this show, but they allow you to make good beer by cleaning and sanitizing your equipment. They make the chemicals to make you be a better home brewer, and you should thank them for that. I mean, you already do by buying their product and listening to this show because they support us, but you know how it goes. We're coming up to NHC again, and I always say every year, they're going to be at NHC. Go say hi to the people at 5 Star. They're great people. They support this show. They help spread the good beer knowledge, not only by making the final product that you use, but also, like I said, allowing us to tell you about it. So
HomebrewCon,
check it out.
In Providence this year, yeah.
They are great people. Are you going to Rhode Island for HomebrewCon this year?
No, I'm not going to Rhode Island. Are you kidding me? Literally no reason in the world for me to go to Rhode Island. No, there's no way I can. Even if I wanted to, because then Taryn would have to take off like a week, and just stay with the kid, and she doesn't want to do that, and it's a whole thing. So not only does she not want to, but you know what I mean. She wants to, but she can't. Right?
Rhode Island's nice. Went many years ago. It's actually we spent some time in Providence. It's a cool town. I just for same kind of logistical reasons, I'm not sure. I don't think I'll be able to make it this year.
Yeah, I did think about it, but we don't have daycare. We don't have anybody to take care of the kid. Yeah. So, and then having Taryn kill a week of PTO for anyway, for me not to make any money going out to Providence and spending money, we can't do it. We can't do it, but that's all right. We'll maybe next year, everybody. Maybe next year.
When she's 2, you can leave her alone with no babysitter, right?
That's true. Latchkey kid, dude. That's how I was raised, and that's how she'll be raised, and it'll be a good thing. Don't tell anybody, though. Nobody rat us out.
You drop her off at the concierge. Just be sure you don't lose the ticket.
That's right. Coat check, girl.
That's right.
All right, let's get our first guest on the phone already, huh? What do you think?
Already.
Let's just jump right into this beer.
Let's do it.
What are we doing? What is this? A Saison?
Saison. It's a French Saison, I guess.
Oh, all right. I like that. Christopher, are you there?
Hello. Hey.
I am.
Hey, what's going on, man? This is JP.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Famous JP.
That's right.
That one.
You ready to talk about your Saison, my friend?
Absolutely.
Hell yeah, dude. How long have you been homebrewing?
About 2.5 years.
2.5 years. All right. Is this your first Saison?
No, first with this recipe, though.
Oh, okay. Because I figured 2.5 years, so that's about Saison territory. Yeah. That's a pretty good time to start branching out into stuff. So I just figured it might be time. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Brian Cooper, why don't you start out, and we'll talk to Chris here about his Saison.
Okay. All right, getting into the French Saison. It is, in the nose, I got like a nice bright fruitiness. Kind of a sharper lemony component, some oranginess and appley, pleasant esters up front. It has a low, the phenolics are really faint, but I've got like a little whiff of some white pepper, not too much there. But it seems like a clean kind of Belgian farmhouse style ale ferment or French farmhouse, I guess you'd have to say. Yeast notes are very faint, but it's a spicy hop in there. Or I'm sorry, there's a very faint spicy hop. I can't read my own notes right now. Yeah. No, the yeast is pretty prominent, but the hop, of course, is in the background. That's fine for the style. Lightly malty, clean kind of base and Piddles malt character, but twisted a little bit by that yeast. So no DMS, diacetyl, anything really weird in there. That's cool. Appearance-wise, it's a pale yellow, lightly hazy beer with a fine head of small white bubbles, a kind of a delicate head. It stuck around for a little while. I guess the retention was fairly good, but it faded to kind of a collar here, and this one seems to have faded a little faster. We just report, but the appearance seemed fine. It could use a little fluffier head, I would say, but in the flavor, now it's like shifting on me, and I get something kind of it's malty. It's coming across kind of cereal-like, I want to say, and it's not like maybe not like the cereal like Cheerios kind of flavor, like THP that you get in certain sour beers, and it's not sour really at all. But there's something kind of just like malty or like not. How am I to say this? It is malty, but it is not like the fermented malt flavor. It's like more of a kind of a unfermented malt flavor, but at the same time,
like a malt ball or like a
sweet
malt powder.
Malt powder, maybe, yeah.
Interesting thought.
Malted milk.
Yeah, you buy malt to make milkshakes or to make malts with, right? Like that kind of powder.
Maltodextrin. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So very low hops and bitterness. The bright citrus from the aroma seems almost gone in the flavor. So like the nice citrus, I was like, okay, this will be a nice bright tasting beer, and there's just something that's kind of gone or dulled now. At the same time, it finishes fairly dry, as it should. That balances to the malt. Very low phenolics. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's causing this. Is it possibly some sort of mineral elements in the water? Is it? Do you have a high pH water or hard water or something? Alkaline, kind of funky water you're brewing this with that's not letting some of that the bright fruitiness shine through in the flavor that was there in the nose. I'm not sure. So if you know what you can tell us about your water might help us. But if something's really decreasing that perception of the fruit. So all of a sudden I scored a little lower in the flavor than I did in the aroma. I thought the aroma was really nice. But otherwise, it's again clean. There's no real obvious defects here. It's just odd and a little off, but not in a classically defective way. Mouthfeel-wise, it's light-bodied, kind of medium light, maybe no warmth, somewhat creamy. I'm not getting any real astringency in here either. The carbonation is kind of medium-low. But it doesn't have the acidic impression. It lacks kind of that prickly bite that you normally get in a saison. So this could be partially due to the carbonation being a little bit lower, but it is soft. And I guess when you think about French Saison yeast, it's going to soften it out a little bit. But overall, in the end, I thought this was a very tasty beer. I couldn't find a lot of fault with it, but it has a really inviting aroma, great appearance. Aside from needing maybe a little more head to it, a little fluffiness there to get it happy. There's something in the water, or maybe the yeast that's kind of dulling the otherwise really nice fruity characters that I wanted more of in the flavor. I may not be judging this. I don't know. 1,000% fairly. It's just compared to the guidelines, it's much softer and less acidic. And again, it might be that yeast, but it's just less carbonation and just kind of dulled. So I don't know if it's that malt character in the flavor beginning is just like unmalted or unfermented or maybe oxidized malt note, but I'm not getting a big papery either. So.
I know what you mean by that, and I don't. Sitting here trying to dissect it, it's almost like lemony, but not bready, but not malty, but not almost like there is a big yeast character to it, like a yeast bite, but a subtle yeast bite, but not. it is kind of
or it's like
flabby, I guess.
Fruit pith, but not fruit.
Yeah, maybe
zest or brightness.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Brian Shar, go ahead and maybe you can
do a better job than I did.
Elaborate a little bit.
No, I largely echo what Brian had to say. Aroma, definitely Pils malt. I got spicy, but primarily earthy hops. I'm not sure if it was ultimately hops with the earthy aroma as I go in to talk about the flavor. But a lot of earthiness. Sort of a light grape-type ester. A little bit of low sweet alcohol, no off aromas. Gave it a 7 of 12. Appearance 3 of 3 is crystal clear. I can read through this beer. So definitely, especially in the age of hazy beer, it's refreshing to have a large sample you can literally read through. So very well done. Persistent head, very white with very small bubbles. Light straw color, beautiful looking beer. I love how this beer looks. It's got that classic Saison look, and it makes me want to drink a lot of it. Flavor. Initially, the flavor is Pils malt, and then, like Brian was saying, I get like an earthy. There's something, and we had a discussion prior to the show about there was something off, and we're
Why
both.
do we call it cereal-like or like THP?
And I want to think of it that way, and it's that way, but it's right off the palate, not like a thing that you get after you breathe out afterwards.
Right.
And it's
we're
both grandmasters, and we're still having. So I'll give you this: you're stumping the grandmasters about what is exactly this flavor in your beer. It's a bit baffling, quite what's there, and I think it's maybe associated with what I think of as the earthiness. It's like kind of an earthy hop flavor,
right.
But it's certainly not just a hop. It's much more of a malt thing, and maybe there's some interaction with like an earthy hop that's giving it a flavor that I don't like. And I'll ask you when we're done, like what kind of hops you use.
And I don't really think it's a minerally thing either. In the end,
I don't think so either.
It doesn't taste like minerally or.
I'm gonna just guess, and we'll ask Chris later, but maybe it's on the yeast too long. To me, it tastes like a yeast contact length of time thing.
I guess
we'll ask him that in a couple of minutes.
pH.
I like pretending that he's not even listening. That's the best part.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, it's like exactly. It's really well attenuated. I really appreciate the attenuation. Saison needs to be really well attenuated. This beer succeeds at that.
It's hard to do. Yeah,
it's hard to do, and there are several Saison options, but the one that I like. Yeah, that Y yeast 3738. That's
real
the one
finicky.
You got to drive that fucker up to like 90 degrees if you want it to attenuate all the way.
Sing songs to it and like pet the bag that you get.
You must speak French to this thing, and it is okay. And play Ratatouille for it to watch, and it's tough. Low hop bitterness and flavor, totally fine for style. Low level of spice. I kind of want a little more spice character out of this. Got kind of a high bitterness, which is appropriate. Give it 11 out of 20 for flavor. Mouthfeel, body's kind of low, medium, slight warming. Medium carb. Would have liked to have a little bit more carbonation from this. I'm 4 out of 5 for that. Overall impression, 7 out of 10. And that's primarily associated with this weird off flavor that we just can't quite figure out what it is. Love the highly attenuated character of this. Little more spice character would be good. And this also kind of leads me, like Jason was saying, it's not quite as spicy as I would like it to be, which makes me wonder, was there a fermentation issue? So look forward to hearing about your recipe, about your yeast, the timing of fermentation, temp control.
Water,
we will totally grill you on all this. But first, quick question to kick it off in a nice way. Are you in a homebrew club, and you want to give them a shout-out?
I'm actually not in a homebrew club.
You are a lone wolf, like Tim McVeigh.
Wow, well, there you go.
I went dark there all of a sudden.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
Brian's going through some troubling times right now, Chris, so don't worry about it. So let's talk about your beer for a sec, man. What do you think about the comments and about the malt, or at least the influx of comments, because there were a lot of them?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And before I get into it, can I ask you guys? I didn't get a score from either of you. So if you can do that.
I landed at a,
Good work.
sorry about that. Yeah, I landed at a 32 on it.
Yeah, I apologize. My final score 32 also, and we did not coordinate this in advance. We just happened to both be 32.
Nice.
Which is still very good, right? That's the very good range.
There's not really big faults in this beer. It's
Not
just
really, no.
missed the mark a little bit with something. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're on Dr. Homebrew, so we're going to be hypercritical about stuff.
That's true.
That's the nature of the beast. You send it in, we're going to be talking in detail. I mean, it's not bad. I would finish the whole bottle if it were placed in front of me. We're just talking about stuff that could be better.
Well, let's talk about your recipe. Let's go through that real fast.
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole idea with this was kind of to brew a grisette. So I know there's not really one of those in the 2015 style guidelines. So this is kind of a spitball with that. So I started with 7 pounds of Belgian Pilsner, half a pound of malted wheat, 1 pound of flaked wheat, and I added a half a pound of cane sugar.
Okay.
Yeah. So the hot bill is, I'm going to butcher this, but it's 1 ounce of drizzle spalts.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
That sounds good to me. It's very French.
Hey, all
yes. See? Yeah.
Yeah. Something European, right? And then, and that's at 60 minutes, 1 ounce of drizzle spalts at 60 minutes. 1/4 ounce of Styrian Goldings at 15, half ounce of Czech saws at 15, and a half ounce of EKG at flame out. So, and I did use the 3711 French Saison yeast by Y Yeast. And for every beer I add Clarity-Ferm. That kind of helps with clarity, and my wife is gluten-free, and she likes to drink beer, and this actually brings it below the 10 parts per million gluten content.
Okay, all right. I wonder if that had...
It's so well attenuated.
Well, and that's got to have something to do with the mouthfeel, right? I mean...
Yeah, I think it makes it thinner. I actually have had issues with when I've been trying to brew like thicker beers, like Imperial Stouts, something like that. It does end up a bit thinner.
Feels light-bodied, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if it's that taking the malt, kind of giving the light body away, right? But you have all of that wheat. And I wonder if that's maybe the flavors that we're trying to figure out. I don't know how gluten works. Is there wheat? Is there gluten in wheat? What's
your water like? Do you know?
So water is
wet.
It's pretty hard. The city I live in, I need to go down there or something. But the water quality report has not been updated for about 4 years. So I don't know exactly what I'm working with as far as minerality. I think it's a little bit harder. But I think pH is somewhere around
exactly what's in your water.
7.5, 8, or something like that.
Okay.
But I did get the mash pH down to 5.38, which seemed about right for me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I do get a real big Cheerio kind of thing on my breath. That kind of reminds me of, I don't know if I've ever quote unquote tasted THP, but it's how I've heard it described.
Yeah, or off-brand Cheerios, you know?
Yeah, and the wine call it the mouse taint.
Mouse taint, yeah.
But here's the thing, though, THP, you don't because of the pH, you don't taste the THP until, and this is maybe where I'm just not knowledgeable enough about THP, and maybe it's a pH thing. So the THP in sour beer, you don't taste it. You drink some sour beer, and then you breathe out, and it's like a few seconds later, you're like, "Oh crap, that's Cheerios."
Right, but this beer is not as acidic as a sour beer, so it's
immediately
already
you get Cheerios. So maybe there's not that thing where your mouth has to work, and then maybe that is THP.
It's already there because your
mouth doesn't have to adjust the pH to a balanced thing with your spit enzymes and all that stuff. And that's my advanced biochemistry with the spit enzymes.
No, you're as it's going through your mouth and saliva is coming in, it's bringing the pH up to more like regular beer pH, and then you taste it. So this is already at regular beer pH, so then you taste it immediately. So I think I would say I think there's THP in this beer. You tasted Cheerios, Chris. Brian and I both thought we tasted a Cheerio thing. It's coming in with some THP somehow.
I'd be very curious about the flaked wheat and the malted wheat and the Clarity-Ferm. Like what flavors the Clarity-Ferm will kick off, if any. I imagine there's got to be some interaction. There has to change the flavor somehow, and I wonder if that's
wheat is super glutinous.
Yeah,
right. I mean, if you're talking about gluten free. And it's by the way, you're gluten reduced, or not trying to make any FDA approved statements here. You're a good man to make sure that your wife gets beer that she can drink. Wheat is much more glutinous than barley, and maybe this is some weird that's a good point. I mean, I've never heard of anyone trying to use Clarity-Ferm in a beer that's got a wheat component to it.
A heavy wheat component. Yeah.
And this may be just an interaction between the Clarity-Ferm and the wheat. I mean, Brian, what do you think?
I don't know that the Clarity-Ferm, I haven't used it, but I don't know that it's supposed to do too much to the flavor. It's going to drop some things out that are in the beer, so it's going to reduce flavor and lighten body.
That's what I mean. Yeah, not that it's changing necessarily the flavor, but it's subtracting some of the components, and maybe it's leaving more of the wheat flavor, I guess, or the wheat. I don't know, like oils or whatever, without the body to balance it out.
Like I said, I've never heard of someone using it with wheat as opposed to barley, and maybe it's leaving behind this Cheerios flavor that's kind of this cereal.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's very strange.
Off-brand Cheerios.
Off-brand Cheerios. Said. It's not really flavorful, but it's there like you're eating like this off-brand.
What do they call that at Walmart? Like the Cheerios or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know, because the beer tastes fine, like everyone's saying, but it is just kind of globulous. It's just kind of doesn't really have a shape to it,
especially in the flavor. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that,
right? I mean, that's kind of what we're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know that Clarity-Ferm is doing much to it, other than just lightening up a little bit. But like the THP generally comes up, I think, when you have a little Brett in there, but I'm not getting a big Brett or a little, oxidation and combining, and then it's just.
I mean, there's a little like maybe tartness in the nose, but there's no Brett. Yeah, I would love a side by side.
And THP could age out too. Like you could let this sit for a while, and it may taste completely different. And that might be going away. Is it pretty fresh? When did you brew it?
I brewed it January 20th.
Yeah.
Oh, so very fresh. Yeah.
All right. So definitely you didn't leave it on the yeast for too long. That's for sure.
Nah.
What was your batch size? 5 gallon.
Yeah.
Would you have a 5 gallon batch size on this? Okay.
5 gallon batch. Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing the beer. It's definitely
that's crazy.
Tasty beer, and it's enjoyable.
Yeah,
you gave us a lot to talk about.
If you do it again, I would personally just pull some aside and not Clarity-Ferm it, just for you to taste on your own to see if a beer with this much wheat, this much gluten, it does kind of subtract some of the flavors. I don't know.
That's a great idea. I really like that idea.
Yeah.
But make sure that it has a thing
it's very labeled
for you, and that your wife doesn't inadvertently drink out of that, because that'll be a bad week for all of you.
Yeah. Do you have any questions, Chris?
Yeah. I mean, I know it's kind of a mystery, but do you guys have any advice besides dropping the Clarity-Ferm and experimenting with that a little bit, as just how to improve this beer?
Did you temperature control your fermentation? Did you say that, and I just didn't quite hear you?
No, yeah. So I have controlled fermentation during the warmer months, but where I keep my fridge, it's about 40 degrees. So I have ambient temperature fermentation at about 68 for this. Okay. So
now you use 3711, right?
Yeah.
So the 3738, I think, is the one that likes it really hot. I would double check. I don't have it right in front of me. I would pull up the website for Yeast and just check the optimum fermentation temp for this. Saison tends to like to get fermented hot to get fully attenuated. You don't seem to have a problem with that, and the Clarity-Ferm, I think, helped a lot. But here's also a thought that if you can control your fermentation temp to whatever Yeast says 3711 should be, try to do that. and maybe you get more attenuation. You may have had a situation where some of your attenuation came from Clarity-Ferm and not the yeast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally guessing. I'm thinking out loud here. And if you, in my experience, Saison, because the homily about Saison yeast, I have no idea if it's true, is that it's essentially a red wine yeast that adapted to ferment beer. And if you've been to a winery that does red wine, they do crazy shit. Like it's harvest time, and like, hey, what are these big 1,000-gallon tanks in your parking lot when it's 100 degrees out? Oh, we just pitched some yeast in our red wine. Like, what? As a home brewer, you just want to slap them around, but that's what red wine likes. So traditionally, Saison yeasts are thought of as ones that like to be fermented hot. So again, just check the fermentation temp. If it wants to be hot, you can drive it hot, and then do your Clarity-Ferm. Again, just thinking out loud here for things that might help you.
Yeah.
Again, Saison typically likes to be hot. Brian, what do you think?
Well, I pulled it up, but yeah, this one, you don't want to go into the 80s with this one. With the other one, you would want to drive 38.
It up.
Yeah. But yeah, like 65 to 77. So you're kind of on the lower end for that. And to get a little more fruitiness, you could aim for the middle of that, or towards, and then maybe ramp it up a little bit towards the higher. So yeah, try it.
Yeah, maybe drive it up 3 or 4 degrees to like the low 70s, maybe.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah.
It'll definitely get fruitier. So
that's true.
And I like a fruity Saison. It kind of tends to be my personal bias. I love brewing these beers, by the way. I try to do a Saison every year. I like to put a little orange zest in, make it kind of a fruit, like an orange.
Like a cheat there, but that doesn't work, right?
Well, not a cheat. If I compete, I'll enter it as a fruit beer.
Right, okay, yeah.
But I like to have a little navel orange, toss like some zest in or something. But it's I love the style. It's refreshing and high carb and just and really, really good. But good job, man. Thank you for sending it in.
Yeah. Anything else, Chris?
No, that's it. Thank you guys so much for the feedback. Appreciate it.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it, man.
Brian, when do you put your orange zest in?
I'll put it in I don't secondary because I don't want to expose it to more the potential of infection. But I will open my primary about a week before. I'll zest onto like a plate that I've sanitized, and I'll just take a knife that I sanitize, and I'll just like take some zest, and I'll put it in my primary within a week to go. Let it sit on there for like a week, and then rack it off.
It sounds nice and farmhousey. I like it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Speaking of yeast, if you want to gain a more in-depth knowledge of yeast, you can join White Labs on March 13th and 14th for Yeast Essentials 2.0 in San Diego. This 2-day workshop will explore fermentation control points, tips for maintaining optimal yeast performance, and how to develop desired yeast flavor compounds. Attendees will learn methods for off-flavor detection and sensory evaluation techniques of different strains, as well as how to properly troubleshoot different fermentation problems. If you can't make it to San Diego, they're also doing a live webcast. If you register by February 14th, but that was too long ago, and that was only early bird pricing anyway, so you can still make it. But check it out. Go to whitelabs.com/education. All right, we're going to take a quick break, very quick break, and we're going to come back. We're going to be talking to Avery and drinking some more beer. This is Dr. Homebrew. We will be right back.
Hello, fellow BNers. This is Sully from the 21st Amendment Brewery located in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park. Before Nico and I opened the 21A and before I was a professional brewer, I homebrewed on my small 4-burner apartment stove in a back house in Santa Monica, California, making my extract brews before graduating to the daunting idea of all-grain brewing. Homebrew books and information was hard to come by back then. The internet hadn't been invented yet, along with other things we take for granted today, like electricity and potable water. One thing I wish I had back then when I was learning was a radio show that could teach me the ins and outs of brewing and answer questions that I had about homebrewing, a resource for making great craft beer. The 21st Amendment Brewery is excited to be a proud sponsor of Dr. Homebrew, a great show that teaches you what you need to know about making incredible beer. Good stuff. Listen up, you might learn something. I certainly did. And thanks for your support. Tasty Crack Games.
Now, back to the examination.
All right, thanks for sticking around, everybody. Before we get to our friend Avery, who has been on before, you might recognize his voice. He's becoming popular. I don't know.
He's blowing up.
I'm going to tell you guys about GrogTag. You can go to grogtag.com right now. And, of course, you can get a bunch of cool labels and coasters and bottle caps and all that kind of stuff. They're all custom. But I would encourage you to go to beta.grogtag.com. Their beta site is still up and running, where you can get 25% off. And, I'm undercutting our own, coupon code, which is Be an Army, by the way. You only save 10%. But
stop doing
for
that.
now, you're saving 25%, and you can check out all the cool stuff that is going on over there on beta.grogtag.com. There's a new editor where you can add text boxes and move stuff around and do a lot of really creative stuff. You can also create a login for your work, and you can save your work, and you can save your past stuff. So it's a whole thing. Doing a whole bunch of cool stuff over there on GrogTag. So check it out, beta.grogtag.com. Let me call Avery here right now.
I wish I could make a lot of money beta testing software, because I can break any software. And GrogTag does not want me to go to their beta site, because I will break it so hard.
I have a knack for that.
Tell them. They're looking for people just like
software.
you. Brian, what beer are we drinking? Oh, Avery's on here. Avery, what's going on, man?
Not too much. How you guys doing?
Yeah, pretty good, man. We're about to drink. What are we drinking here? An English brown ale with chai spices.
Chai spices, yes.
Yep. I thought I'd get a little crazy.
It sounds like you're getting a lot crazy, man.
At least you didn't say it's a hazy IPA this time.
That's true.
That's nice.
That's true. Is this the first time you've tried something like this?
This is definitely not my first time at a brown, but definitely my first time at spicing it up like this.
Okay. All right. So this is a base brown. Did you tweak anything about it to adjust for the chai, or just kind of
definitely? So I have a sort of a go-to base that I've kind of I wouldn't say perfected, but have done a couple iterations of, and I've liked. And then on that, in terms of throughout the hot side, it was just adding some lactose during it was about a pound of lactose for about a 12, 14 gallon batch.
Yeah,
right.
I thought maybe there's some lactose going on here. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, all right. Well, that sounds cool. I can't wait to drink it. Brian Shar,
yes.
Why don't you start us out, dude?
I sure will. So I enjoyed this beer. There was some low levels of spice noticeable. And my score sheet's written based on this being a colder beer, and as it's warmed up, it's definitely a little more pronounced spice. But the aroma is dominated by malt. Definitely got some low caramel, and in my theme for this beer is oatmeal raisin cookie. I mean, this is a chai beer, but the spices to me come across through, especially as it warms up, total oatmeal raisin cookie, and that's a good thing. No diacetyl, no off aromas. Definitely get some vanilla as it warms, consistent with this cookie character. I give it 8 of 12 for aroma. Appearance 3 of 3, large head, tannin color, and persistent. Color is dark brown with ruby highlights, very clear. Hard to do in a dark beer sometimes, but definitely very obviously a clear beer. Flavor, initially the flavor was malty, with sort of a medium caramel character. Low hop bitterness, no hop flavor. Very well attenuated. With all the beers tonight, the last couple of shows, we've had some really well attenuated beers, and that's very welcome. And that makes any beer a lot better when it's well fermented.
That's true. That's true.
There's a little heat in the finish, not very much. It's more of a mouthfeel character, but there's a very slight bit of alcohol noticeable. Spices are low and detected more in the heat and the taste. I'd be curious if there's some kind of spice that's more of a hot spice in this, because I get kind of a hot spice character in the finish on some sips. It's weird. Not every sip do I get that, but sometimes I get almost like a cardamom or something that gives me like a little bit of a heat, or a serrano,
that's a component of
something
chai,
like that.
Yeah.
So there's no, well, I'll go to this in a second. As it warms, the vanilla raisin oatmeal cookie increases. Gave it a 12 out of 20. Mouthfeel, 5 out of 5. Medium body, medium carbonation, slight warming, slight astringency from spices, and then that's okay for this style. I really enjoyed this beer a lot. I think this might have done better if it were in a 30A. So this was entered in 29B, which was a fruit and spice ale. But there's no fruit that's declared. And 30A is the spice herb vegetable. And I was pretty generous. I gave this overall as a 34 out of 50. If I were in a competition and I got this beer, I like this beer, this would definitely be more in the mid-20s, and the score I'd be giving you was more like, where's the fruit? You declared a fruit. This is a fruit and spice entry. It's not there. And I would give it that score not because it's a bad beer, but because it was entered in a category where one of the key components simply wasn't declared or noticeable.
That was my mistake. I think I meant to submit it as a spice and herb, not a spice and fruit.
Okay, so that's good. So essentially, I mean...
Wow, Avery, way to go, dude. And we thought you were a home brewer. Jesus Christ.
So here's the thing.
Jesus
I mean,
Christ.
it's Dr. Homebrew, and we're trying to be gentle here. So I'm saying this, but I judged it more like it was a 30A. I didn't, again, if it were in a comp, you'd be more like a 24 than a 34, not because of flavor, but because of just that entry issue.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I love the oatmeal cookie character, and in fact, I might, from a standpoint of how you characterize this for entrance, I think it's a very flavorful and tasty beer. I think if you called it an oatmeal raisin cookie brown, I've had commercial examples of oatmeal raisin cookie that I haven't thought have been as oatmeal raisin cookie as this one. Maybe I'm the only one of you guys. But I thought it was really well done. Good job. 34 out of 50. I would have an entire pint of this. And like several beers I have on this show, you'd probably be carrying me out of here if I could drink as much as I wanted. So,
That's
well done.
Awesome.
That's really the common theme.
High praise.
It's that Brian Shower gets wasted
Maybe it's
rather
drink
than
too much. I don't know. Maybe I have a problem. Who knows?
Bottle, buddy.
All right.
There you go. All right, Mr. Cooper, go ahead, please.
All right, yeah. So in the nose, I got a lightly sweet malt with hints of chocolate and faintly nutty under there, some caramel, moderate fruity esters, and but yeah, prominent chai spice. Not really like, so chai is the tea, and then you have the masala chai is the spiced version of the tea over there, but. It tastes like this, or it smells like the spices, and not really like super tea like. And you did declare as just like chai spices, not chai tea. So, if there's any tea in this or not, we'll talk about that. But I'm not getting a big tea presence here at all. Especially that cardamom comes out in there, fairly well in balance with the style. It's popping out a bit over the top, I would say, above the styles, like the chocolates and the nuttiness. They're kind of fighting to be seen a little bit, but it is really actually in pretty good balance with the style. Just the spice wins out a little bit, and it may be pretty fresh. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm not getting any DMS or diacetyl, anything in there. It's a nice clean beer, and I like the British. The brown ale based style there with this, and it actually works.
Yeah, it's well done.
Appearance wise, it's a medium light reddish brown colored beer with a low kind of manila envelope beigeish head that falls after a while to a low collar of fine bubbles. It's mostly finer bubbles in there. Flavor wise, it's malty, and so in the flavor I get like all of a sudden this big toffee like note comes out. I really like that. A light chocolate. There's no real coffee or anything here. It's just chocolate and toffee and a little caramel in the background. I like the way that came out, and then I'm also getting a little licorice-like component in there. Again, with there's the cardamom, but also I'm wondering if there's maybe some. And I don't know. I want to know if you made your own chai spices, if you blended it yourself, or if you just used a classic mix from somewhere. But I'm getting a fennel-like kind of anise kind of licorice note here. So and that's nice with everything else. It's subtle, but it's in there. The sweetness, it's actually Brian declared it as being fairly dry. I was getting a sweetness and like specifically kind of a milk-like sweetness, and it's like there's got to be some lactose in this thing. It's just playing off those chai spices, and it's working as like that milky tea, spiced tea thing, and with the beer instead of tea-like flavors, So this is a clean British ale ferment. Finishes to me kind of medium sweet actually, and along with the chai spice and the toffee-like stuff. I mean, I wouldn't say it's under attenuated either. It's attenuated just fine, but and that toffee-like lingers into the aftertaste. Hops are low and out of the way as they should be, and the bitterness is not substantial. It's a really nice job of balancing. I really like the flavor of this beer. Mouthfeel-wise, medium bodied, medium low carbonation, no warmth, slightly creamy, smooth, but a bit biting from the phenolic spice. But otherwise, there's no obvious astringency. So that the fennel or if something in there is just a little biting, or the cardamom gives you a little phenolic bite in the mouthfeel.
Yeah.
I knocked it down a little bit for that. I give it a 3 out of 5 for mouthfeel, but it's not really harsh either. So maybe I'm rough there, but anyway, it's only 5 points to work with. So overall, it's a very pleasant drinking beer with solid elements of the style. And the chai spice coming through nicely. So I'd love to know what blend you got in there. I would say it would help to increase the carbonation a bit. And so, again, I wouldn't declare it as a fruit and spice beer if there's no fruit in it. But since you did have no fruit in the description, I just assumed that it was categorization error, and I judged it as a 30A. Gave it the benefit of the doubt.
I appreciate that.
So it's a 37. If it was entered as a 29B, I would have to give it like a 29 or lower or something like that, just like because it's missing the mark a little bit.
We were on the same page on that.
So really nice beer, and tell us more about the spice, the base style, everything else. So what do you got here?
Nope.
We lost contact with the aliens.
Skype.
It's all right.
Skype always does this thing.
It's all good. Avery, you still there? All right. Well, we lost Avery, so maybe he'll call back.
My chai blend was.
No, I really like the way the chai came across in that, and it had that cardamom, which is it's got a little bit of a kind of green peppery thing going on.
Yeah.
And then, but not like a sharp, harsh one, just really smooth and nice. And a little fennel-like kind of note, too. So
let's see, Avery.
Really fun.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's all right, man. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
So were you guys asking sort of what the base beer was and what went into it, etc.?
Yeah.
Before we lose your chai spice blend.
Tell us about your chai, and did you blend it yourself?
Yeah, so obviously the inspiration behind this was actually my wife, because she's not a big beer drinker, so it's always an interesting road to try and find a beer that she'll actually drink. So this was my attempt. She loves coffee and she loves chai, so thought I would try my hand at it. And in terms of the spices, you guys picked up on a lot of them. So there's vanilla, cardamom, cinnamon, let's see, nutmeg, allspice, ginger were the main components of that. And then in terms of the base beer, let me pull up the recipe. The base was Maris Otter and had about 1.5 pounds of oats, 1.5 pounds of dark crystal from Simpson's, about 1 pound of biscuit, another pound of crystal T50, and a little bit of chocolate for some color. And that was about it in terms of the malt bill.
I think that Maris Otter is giving you a real nice base to build on, too. It's like an English beer.
Oh, yeah.
If you use a really good floor malted Maris Otter, you can tell a huge difference in the beer,
Yes.
Seems quality.
So did you guys, unfortunately, you guys were cutting out a little bit, especially when Brian was going through it. So it was sort of interesting because, Brian, you thought that you got a good amount of spice and maybe it was just in terms of it competing with the base beer, it might have been just a tad too much. But but then on the other side, you guys were getting more oatmeal cookie and a lot more of the base malt beer, which is sort of interesting, I think, in general with these spiced beers. With a lot of my other friends, some people will say, oh man, the chai is really subdued and I'm not picking that much of it up. And then others will say, oh, I think it's a little bit over the top. So in terms of improving the beer, what would you guys, I mean, where are you guys at in terms of, whether should I have gone more on the balance of chai spices in a different direction?
Where would you go?
Or just reduced it, or?
Where would you go, Mr. Brian?
I think this is probably right about on the money, because if I think it's oatmeal raisin cookie and Mr. Cooper thinks that it is maybe a little on the high side, that's the thing. The threshold for spice is always going to be a little different for everyone.
Yeah, that's the nature of chai, I think.
Exactly.
It's very polarizing.
Exactly. Well, spice or vegetable beer in general. And you don't want to be so... You need to be sure it's there, because it's something you'll be judged on as part of the style. But you don't want it to be so much, but that's all that's there, right? If all that we tasted were spices, then we'd have to knock it down, because where's the beer? Yeah. And what I really like about this beer is that I get more oatmeal raisin cookie character, and that's totally great for that combination of spices. But the base beer is still present. And we judge. You can put this in 30A when you enter it in competition. This is mid to high 30s, and that's a good score.
Yeah, I think definitely. In the nose, I was worried that the spice was winning out too much, but once I got into the flavor and had that nice little toffee-like thing, I was really enjoying the way it did balance and presented itself. So, I was like, okay. In the nose, some of the chocolate or some of the subtle notes of the English style are fighting to be seen, but then you really taste that English malt when you get in the flavor, and it's like, oh, this is right, man. This is good balance. So,
right.
Oh, nice.
I wouldn't change it too much. I personally would back it up just a tiny touch, but it's still going to be plenty there. We both get it just fine, but or maybe just add another a malt to leave a little more complex. No, you don't want to complicate your recipe too much, but something a little, give a little more nuttiness, a little more biscuit malt or something in there. Just give it a little more contrast to everything else that's there, but don't go too crazy.
No, that's right.
Yeah, spicing a beer is definitely a scary thing to do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Spices can be really, like you guys were saying, astringent and hot and all those terrible flavors that you don't want in a beer. So when you're putting it in, you're just, sort of closing your eyes and hoping not only did you get the right balance between the various spices that make up a masala chai, but also sort of is the aggregate too much?
Yeah.
No, that's totally right. And I've done stuff like taken the eyedropper and put stuff in individual bottles for competition and just crossed my fingers and hope for the best. You just do. There's that, or you can go for the whole, like, I got a keg, I'm putting it in, and I'm going for it.
That's the scary part.
Yeah, it's a little scary sometimes. Yeah. I'm committing 5 gallons of beer to this being what it's going to be.
I wonder what you like with a little more chocolatey notes too. But again, you don't want to go too crazy or make it too much.
No.
And there's no tea in this, right? I mean, it's just spices, right?
Yeah, no, yeah. So I didn't mention that, but there's no tea. It was just the lactose, which was sort of, it was actually interesting because I thought the lactose added, a lot of sweetness. It actually was a pretty well attenuated beer before I added it. So I was going to mention this, but I actually forgot to add the lactose during the boil. So I added it basically after it had been crashed. But I just boiled up the lactose and threw it in. So it was a pretty well attenuated beer beforehand, and I think it went to about 10-18 after lactose had been added.
Yeah.
In terms of the final gravity.
It would have just been harsh without that. So that's perfect move.
Yeah.
Adding it in.
I mean, I don't think there's... I think it's a good beer. I think what everyone was saying, you're going to have a hard time pleasing everybody. Mm-hmm. So make it to what you like, or if you want to please the masses, then do what Sam Adams does, or BJ's, or whatever, if you have one of those around you, or any sort of these larger breweries that kind of flirt with more flavorful beers, and you just kind of dumb it down a little bit to please everybody.
But I totally, to that point, the fact that Brian thought it was a little more spicy than I did, and we kind of centered around, we gave it a very similar score, and I think the spice level is probably pretty optimal for what you're going to be able to do in competition, in all honesty.
Yeah.
The question is, did it please the wife?
That's the important thing.
Yeah, she didn't. She didn't. It's funny because, obviously she's very kind and, she's not a big beer lover. And so most of the beers that she drinks, she smiles, but it's more of a grimace because she doesn't really like beer that much. So this time I think it actually went down pretty well. She got up on her own and went and got some more beers off the tap on her own. So that's always a good sign if she's helping herself.
No, that's the best. I mean, you can hear all the words that you want, but if someone's willing to ingest a thing more than one time,
exactly,
you're ready for it. Yeah,
that's a true indicator for sure.
Avery, do you have any other questions for everybody, or are we free to release you?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I appreciate you guys having me on again.
Of course.
It's like a work release, though.
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
Got to do something for the Brewing Network.
Check in periodically. Yeah,
exactly.
Really
I do have a Doppelbock sitting in. It's at Diacetyl Rest right now. I picked up a little bit of diacetyl about a week and a half or 2 weeks into primary fermentation. So I'm been letting it sit for a little bit longer, and then once it passes my test, I think I'm gonna go and crash and then send it you guys' way when it's done.
We like that style of beer. That's odd. That's odd. Oddly enough,
you might want to warm it up a little to get rid of the diacetyl. Just saying.
Another non.
Yeah. I'll put it in the microwave.
Perfect.
All right,
Please do that. All right, we'll let you go, Avery. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, dude. Bye.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to give stuff away. It'll be a good time.
Microwave some
it's
beers.
Dr. Homebrew will be, like I said, right back.
Do you know the 3 most important rules in brewing? Sanitation, sanitation, and sanitation. And no one does it better than 5-Star Chemicals. 5-Star knows sanitation. You can only sanitize clean equipment. And 5-Star knows how to clean, too. For craft brewers and home brewers, 5-Star has what you need to keep your fermenters, serving tanks, kegs, and draft lines sparkling and free of any beer-spoiling bacteria. PBW, caustic, acid cleaners, Star San, SaniClean, lubricants and defoamers, pH stabilizers, and more. 5-Star Chemicals has cleaning supplies, safety supplies, heat exchangers, pumps, hoses, and valves. And 5-Star is proud to offer eco-friendly products that exceed customer expectations. If you have a cleaning problem, you need the 5-Star solution. Visit 5starchemicals.com or call 800-782-7019. 800-782-7019 and get the 5-Star treatment today.
I'm sorry to tell you this, but we're going to have to pour you out.
Back to Dr. Homebrew.
Okay, thanks a lot, everybody. We're going to give some grog tags away here. $40 gift certificate to grogtag.com or beta.grogtag.com if you want to save a little bit extra cash on that order of custom reusable labels, which nobody else really does. So it's a pretty cool thing. Everything is professionally designed there at GrogTag. You fill in the blanks, upload a photo if you want, or don't. Do whatever you want.
Yeah, and I'm going to wander down to Starbucks after this and order a chai tea latte. I never order one for myself.
Neither do I.
Extra hot, no water.
I want one for some reason. No, just kidding. But
my girlfriend always says, extra hot, no water, chai tea latte. That's the way to go. I'm just saying.
Huh?
There's no water. What do you mean no water?
I don't know. That's just what she says. I don't know what it even means. She just wants the extra hot, no water.
Chai tea it's a syrup.
Yeah, but
and so they just pump it in, and then in the latte it's just espresso and milk.
Maybe it's just, I don't know what it means, man.
I don't know
That's how she asks.
Your girlfriend's crazy.
Ask, but she's awesomely crazy if she's crazy.
Everybody at Starbucks thinks you're crazy because
why do you get here?
It's
no
really
water.
it's a way for Brian's girlfriend to, what is it, gaslighting? No, it's not gaslighting. Where it's like, I'm going to make Brian look like an idiot in front of other people, so I keep him.
That would not be like what's going on at all. She just likes we should like weird stuff. What can I say?
Yeah, I mean,
she hates hates beer and coffee.
It's like when I worked at Starbucks, people would ask for like a mocha latte, and then you get to look at them. You're like, well, which one is it? Is it a mocha or a latte? A mocha just has it's a latte, but it has chocolate syrup in it. And then they go, "Oh, I don't know." And I'm like, "But I need to know which one you want because I can't make the thing that doesn't actually exist." I don't know. It was a little fun for me. Anyway, the $40 gift certificate to Grog Tag goes to.
It's going to our buddy Chris.
Chris, all right, good job, dude.
A nice
good job, Chris.
The next Saison.
Get some labels, dude. Labels are good stuff. Let's go, Dr. Homebrew outro bed. Speaking of bed, I got to sit here and edit these stupid shows. Then I got to go to the friggin' grocery store and buy food for my stupid kid. Pain in the ass. Kids are dumb.
You'll make it.
I'll make it. All right, everybody.
Factory across the street.
It's a palace.
Palace, not a factory.
Never downplay the monarchy of the hot dog in this area. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening. If you enjoyed this show, listen to some of our older shows. That'd be cool. And then, depending on when it is, listen to some new shows. Whatever you want to do. Also, there's a bunch of stuff on the BrewingNetwork.com, like The Session and Heads and Tails and Brew Strong and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, all those shows are boring.
Right. I mean, this is the best. But
if you want to send us beer, email Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com and we'll get your beer on our show.
There you go.
And thank you.
Is there a thing called the Sour Hour?
No. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in. And until next time, we will see you later.